Hey everyone, it's me, Arthur Kade, welcoming Holly Madison to Behind the Velvet Rope. Make sure to check out her new book in bookstores everywhere today, Down the Rabbit Hole. Pretty incredible stuff. Hey everyone, it's me, Arthur Kade and Holly Madison. I was just telling you, looks like you have had a very busy week. Congratulations, your new book, Down the Rabbit Hole. And I feel like you're everywhere right now because you're debunking the Playboy myth. How crazy has it been this whole week for you?
It's really insane the amount of attention this book has been getting. I wasn't expecting it at all. You know, I love the book. I knew it turned out great and that people would identify with it and word of mouth would spread, but I never thought for a second it would get this much attention. It's really crazy.
As a 37-year-old male, we all have dreams of here's what the Playboy Mansion, here's what Hugh Hefner's life is like. And it's all been spoiled now. Is it crazy putting this stuff out there? You've gotten reaction, good, bad, ugly. Talk to me about this feedback and what it's all been like for you.
Well, I mean, I encourage people to read the whole book before they judge because sometimes, you know, I see a lot of hate out there, but I can tell by what they're saying that they haven't read the book. And the book's over 400 pages for a reason. You know, I have a lot to say about my experience, good and bad.
One of the things that's fascinating, we look at your story and so many people are trying to make it in this industry. A girl from Alaska comes to LA and tries to make it. Talk to me about this journey you've been on. When you reflect on everything, what are some of the learnings that you've taken away? What's been the message that you've gotten for yourself?
I've learned a lot over the whole experience. You know, when I was young, I came to LA. I was in college when I moved into the mansion. I was fresh off the bus, so to speak. And, you know, I thought fame was everything. And, you know, I was smart, but I was not sophisticated at all. So I wasn't really ready for what I got myself into. I got in over my head and felt very branded by the decision I made and was kind of afraid to leave and face the world. But, you know, now I know better. And, you know, it's better even if you're scared to try and go stand on your own 2 feet.
One of the things I like about what you're doing right now is you're really taking a stance of female empowerment and saying, do what you feel is right for you and not necessarily what others or the world may think is right. Talk to me about that stance that you're taking right now and what you want people to take away from this.
Well, what I want people to take away from the book, you know, I'm hoping people can learn from my mistakes. And also I think it might inspire some people if they're in bad relationships to leave, or if they're unhappy with their life to reinvent themselves, or to not feel branded and trapped by a decision they made when they were young. You know, everybody likes to focus on all the scandalous elements in the book because those are certainly in there. But my motivation to write it wasn't that at all. You know, if I wanted to write a straight tell-all, I would have done that 7 years ago, right when I left the mansion. I was getting offers back then too, but I wanted to tell a whole story. I wanted to tell the story of my growth and what I learned.
One of the things that's fascinating is you mentioned 7 years later. What was the inspiration to say, now is the time I want to tell my story?
Well, I decided to write the book about 2 years ago, and I was doing a live show in Vegas, and I was doing very well for myself, and I was single, and I was having fun, and women would come up to me, fans of the show, and they would say, "Oh, don't you miss the mansion?" Or, "I'm sorry Hef didn't marry you." And I was like looking around like, isn't it obvious I'm doing way better now? So I felt that what people came away with from the show, and, you know, I love the show. I had a great time doing it, but it was very much just one side of the story. And I wanted people to know, you know, my whole story, and I wanted people to know that it's better to do it on your own.
One of the things you talk about is abusive relationships. And I think that's such an important subject to tackle because when you hear the term abusive relationship, you think guys just hitting women, but you really tackle it from a different angle. Talk to me about approaching it from the angle that you approach it at.
Well, I think there are all kinds of bad relationships you can be in. There's physically abusive relationships, there's controlling relationships, there's verbally abusive relationships. And, you know, when I was young and I was in school and people were telling me about abusive relationships, and if a guy hits you, go home. And I was like, oh, who would be so stupid to be in a relationship with somebody that hit them? Wouldn't they just leave? And, you know, people stay in bad relationships for so many different reasons. And we all have that friend who's miserable and complains about their relationship, but they love him and they never end up leaving. And I think it's the $1,000,000 question for anybody who's in a bad relationship. Why do you stay? And that's a lot of the reaction I get when people who haven't yet read my book just see the headlines or see an excerpt. They're like, well, if you were so miserable, why didn't you leave? And I get into all of that in my book. And the reasons are complex. There's more than one. And, you know, I hope other people can learn from that.
You're obviously in a very different state of mind right now. You're a mother. You've gone through all these steps, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Talk to me about where your mindset is right now and where you'd like to see yourself 3, 5, 10 years down the line.
I'm very, very happy right now. I have an amazing family. I'd like to write more different kinds of books. And, I'm hoping that now that I've told my whole story, I can really leave my past behind me and hopefully other people can learn from it.
Was it difficult telling the story? I'm always fascinated. I would have so much trouble talking about my own life. When you're putting this all to paper, is there a therapeutic element to it? Is there fear? What was going through you as you're putting these words to paper?
It was definitely therapeutic to write the book, but it was very hard at times too. There were certain chapters I would skip over and be like, okay, I'm going to come back and write that one later, because there were just things I didn't want to face and things I didn't feel comfortable putting out there, but I had to make the commitment to be 100% truthful and, own up to the decisions I made and, say what happened to me. So parts of it were hard, but it's a relief to kind of finally have it out there.
I grew up in the Girls Next Door era, and I remember the popularity around that show. In so many ways, you guys were pioneers because you created this brand of what a Playmate could become, a mainstream brand. When you were going through that, what was that like, that level of fame and being recognized on the street, making, I'm sure, tremendous money? What was that all like at that time?
Well, it's really interesting, and I get into it a lot in the book. I get into that a lot as well. When the show was successful, we knew it was a huge success, but we were kind of sheltered from the fame. We weren't really allowed to have outside representation or to do our own press that didn't specifically promote the show or have for Playboy. And sometimes I go back and watch those old interviews, and we were really good at promoting the brand in a way that was, cute and funny and not vulgar. And, I didn't really feel like we were role models. I felt like people, we weren't role models. I felt like people were laughing at us. And when I got out of the mansion and, was on my own 2 feet, of course, people knew me from the show, and that's kind of an advantage. And you could turn that into something, but a lot of people don't want anything to do with Playboy, and nobody's rushing to hire you and make you the next star just because you were in Playboy. The women who have had Hollywood careers who started in Playboy, they're pretty few and far between. And I know just based on, my experiences that as much as they may have made it because of Playboy, they also made it in spite of Playboy.
Was it difficult separating yourself from the brand? And I ask that because I have the privilege of interviewing so many successful actors, but when they have one iconic role, it's so difficult for people not to see them in that iconic role. And it sometimes takes 5, 10, 15 years to get away from that. Was it difficult for you to get away from that branding element?
It's definitely difficult to get away from that branding element. It's the thing people, remember most about me. And ever since I left the mansion, I wanted to stand on my own and do my own things. And even with the television show I did my own spin-off show, it was hard to get away from, Playboy-related content or questions and things like that. But I always, tried really hard. People don't want to stop calling me Hef's ex, but I never encourage that. I don't, market myself as a Playboy bunny or anything like that. So as much as for years I didn't even want to talk about my past, I finally realized, I had to. It's the elephant in the room. People think the worst about me, and I might as well just tell my side of the story.
What were some of the biggest learnings you took away personally? Because there was so much good that came out of it. There was also, as you write, so much bad. But what were some of the big learnings that came across to you?
I definitely learned, to have faith in myself and not be so naive, and that fame doesn't mean you're a good person, and fame isn't the only thing. So many people have accused me of coming out with this book because I want to stay relevant. And it's like, I don't like being known for Playboy or anything like that. I'm just trying to clear the air about myself and share my message, and I want to move on from all of that.
When you look at the whole picture, do you regret it? Do you regret the whole journey, or do you look at it as, I'm happy this happened?
Well, you definitely can't regret the journey because I'm very happy in my life now. And even if you change something little, the bad thing, everything's a domino effect, and things might not have ended up as great as they did. And, the bad things I definitely learned from, and it made me who I am today.